I'm Bill Davey. I have a master's degree in exercise physiology from the University of Wisconsin-La Crosse. I have been a competitive bodybuilder for quite some time. I haven't competed since November of 2003, but I went to, I took it to the level of winning the 1997 Mr. America, and I ended up parlaying a lot of that into some endorsement contracts with supplement companies. At the time, I had my own personal training business, and the notoriety of that Mr. America competition and my modeling career and the covers of magazines that I was on kind of helped kickstart or elevate my personal training business. And in February of 2004, I stopped doing personal training, and I ended up opening up the Omni Club in Fort Myers, Florida. We opened up a 54,000 square foot facility, and it's just total fitness. We have it set up for the general population who's interested in fitness. We don't have a swimming pool, we don't have the racket courts, we don't have the gymnasiums, but we have over 100 pieces of cardiovascular equipment. We have a huge free weight area, a massive room for machines, and then we have all separate studios for group exercise, our own studio for group ride, which is a spinning type class. We have a yoga studio. We have a room set up for low back, abs, and stretching. We call that our core room. We have a separate room for Pilates. We have a separate room for Fight Club, which is a cardio boxing type program. And then we do have a studio set up for boot camp, which I was a big part of bringing boot camp to Southwest Florida. Not doing it outdoors, but actually indoors. We created took a 850 square foot storage room and converted it into a room that we can fit 30 people at a time and put them through a high intensity cardiovascular workout along with strength training. So since February of 2004, I have been in the health club business. We ended up opening up 2 more facilities in Athens, Georgia, which recently we have sold, and we have 2 facilities in Augusta, Georgia as well, and we are in the process of selling both of those and concentrating on just keeping Fort Myers and possibly expanding throughout Southwest Florida.
All right, great, Bill. Thanks for that introduction. I'm Robert Robitzek. I write blogs for Men's Total Fitness. If you haven't read any of them, please go to menstotalfitness.com, and you can read all my daily blogs on fitness. And I'm going to ask Bill a couple of questions. We'll start with number 1, Bill. I guess you covered some of that in your opening, but at what age did you start working out, and what led you to lifting weights?
Actually, Rob, I got introduced to working out when I was between my sophomore and junior year in high school. My older brother, he was 2 years older than me, and he was a senior at the time in high school. And he played football, and I knew I was playing football at the time, and he brought me in and introduced me to lifting weights. So I got a little bit of experience there. And then I didn't really continue it through my sophomore, junior year, but that summer between my junior and senior year, I really dedicated myself. I wanted to be the starting quarterback going into my senior year, and I knew I was a skinny kid at the time. I had graduated high school only about 150 pounds, so I don't know what I was actually at that time. But I did go ahead, and I saw some real good benefits of weight training that year, and then I continued lifting throughout my senior year. And then when I graduated, going to college, I kind of laid off the working out and kind of started putting on that little bit of freshman 15. And I told myself I'd never allow myself to do that. So that summer of my freshman year, I really got back with some of my high school buddies, and we started working out together. And really from my freshman summer of my freshman year until now, I've been very, very consistent with weight training. I saw what it could do for you. Not only the confidence, once you see the physique changes that occur, but I also got exposed in college to open heart surgery because that was what my master's degree was in, exercise physiology, and we specialized in cardiac rehab. So I was always in the field and actually seeing people have open heart surgery. I had to experience 4 of them, actually watch them. I knew that I never wanted to have that myself. So it was a motivation for me to go ahead and always maintain my fitness level. Then one thing just led to another. A friend of mine said, you should look into the bodybuilding. And when I got out of college, I was actually living in Florida at the time. There was a local show in Fort Myers, and they kind of challenged me to do the show. And I had never even been to a bodybuilding show before, didn't even know what to expect. But I ended up doing good. I won my weight class, and I kind of got the body bug bite, I guess, after that, and continued on for about 10 to 12 years of competitive bodybuilding.
So you started kind of late. I mean, myself, I started when I guess my father bought my first set of weights when I was about 10 years old. So you got into working out a little later than a lot of guys do.
Yeah, if you actually look at it, really consistent lifting, not until my freshman, sophomore year in college, and actually my first bodybuilding show, I think I was in close to 24, 25 years old.
Right.
So yeah, I'd say I was definitely a late
you were a late bloomer to bodybuilding because, I mean, let's face it, I mean, we see bodybuilders now, they start in their late teens. We know some guys that started pretty young in life. And as a bodybuilder, you peak at about, what, 30? Your early 30s?
That's what they usually say, late 20s, early 30s
right.
is when you usually peak in that sport.
Right. So you started later, and then it really blossomed pretty quick for you.
Yes. Actually, I took that local show, and I won that, and that was the first one I did. I think that was in 91 or 92, somewhere in there. And then I started competing more local or regional, I guess.
Right.
And in the bodybuilding world, that's what you have to do is go to certain level shows and work your way up. And then eventually I ended up doing some state level shows and then some national shows. And I guess for me, the one thing that I never really grew up around steroids, so I was never really introduced to it. I guess of just being fortunate. And even when I started bodybuilding, I was never really exposed to the steroids. The people I trained with, they were never really into it or anything like that, and I just never got exposed to it until I started getting up more to the state level, national level shows, and I ended up trying to compete at some of those shows, which were called non-drug tested. Right. And even though I thought I was in pretty good shape, I just couldn't compete at that level in my weight class. I was always a heavyweight. So I just started seeking out national shows in the drug tested levels or drug tested shows, and that led me to the AAU and led me to compete in the Mr. America. And then after that, I continued competing on a professional basis in the Muscle Mania division. The Muscle Mania is a drug tested division of bodybuilding shows, and so I continued competing professionally in there until 2003.
Great. And that was my next question is going to pretty much be a carryover from that. Between personal training and competitive bodybuilding, I mean, after you did, I guess at this point that bodybuilding came first, and then you worked that into personal training. Which one has had the greatest effect on your career?
Financially, obviously the personal training, but I would have to say that the competing, the notoriety that I got, the national exposure I got from the magazines probably enhanced my personal training. I started my personal training business in Fort Myers, Florida, more of a small town. Actually, when I was probably maybe the third, fourth, or fifth person who was doing personal training full time. Maybe in Lee County back in the early '90s. There probably weren't a whole lot of us, and I guess the exposure that I got through the bodybuilding, through my modeling, and through my endorsement contracts kind of elevated me to be able to charge a little bit more. Got people calling me where I wasn't actually out seeking clients, and I was able to do that really for about 13 years full time. So financially, that was very beneficial to me. Some of the endorsement contracts I got, and from bodybuilding itself, there was really no money. I didn't really ever win any money from bodybuilding. The bodybuilding contest, placing as well as I did, led me to some endorsement contracts, and that led to some financial rewards for me. But it was never something that I could just live off of. Obviously, some bodybuilders who take it to that level, that's what they look for. They try and do everything so they get to that level where somebody is paying them, $60, $80, $100,000 a year to endorse their products, and it could be a full-time gig for them.
Right, but now we're getting into the pro bodybuilders who are we know are dabbling in steroids to get to that that level where they are getting huge contracts from sponsors. And you really took it the other way. Instead of going to, let's say, California, which is the mecca of bodybuilding, you came here to Fort Myers, which is a pretty small town, and managed to really persevere with between your background and just in my and I've known you for over since I've been here in '91. Just your nature. I mean, and I think that's a testament to how the type of person that you are. That you're very good with people, and you're an extremely personable guy, and obviously you're very knowledgeable with bodybuilding, and your nutrition is unbelievable. And that's one of the things I've always, even 20 years, you look like you did when I met you 20 years ago, which is pretty amazing. So my first questions, and you did a great job of covering them, so no need for me to get back into them. I'm going to go right to some nutrition and training questions. Let's get right to what's the biggest mistake, and I write this because also being a personal trainer, what's the biggest mistake people make with their training these days?
I would have to say, most people are probably overtrained and undernourished, and they go hand in hand. A lot of people say nutrition is 90% of it. Well, not necessarily. You're not going to get the results if you don't eat right. But even if you're eating right and you're not training hard, you're not going to get the results. What I tell people is that the training, for most part, comes easier to people because it's only an hour a day or an hour and a half a day or 2 hours a day. The nutrition, I would say, is the hardest part for people to be disciplined on because it's something that you're awake 6 to 8, or you sleep 6 to 8 hours a day, so you're awake another 16 to 18 hours throughout the day, and that's where you have 16 to 18 hours to screw up by not eating. I can pretty much guarantee people will get in and do their workout an hour, hour and a half a day, or whatever they need to do. But where they have the most trouble and the hardest part to discipline themselves is eating, that every 3 hours, eating the proper nutrients, and being on a schedule. And I admit it is hard. It's not rocket science by no means. It's pretty simple, once it gets broken down to what you need to eat, what time you need to eat. The hard part is being disciplined enough to prepare your food, have it available, and fit it into a lifestyle of, whether you're a mom or a dad, whether you're, working full time, or fitting it into your lifestyle to be able to get that maximum fuel for the body to go ahead and allow your workouts to, allow you to grow and lose your fat and everything like that.
Great, yeah, and that's what I find most. I mean, it's easy for us to train somebody for an hour, hour and a half. It's when they're not with us, is what are they eating and how often are they eating, and again, you're an expert at that, and that's why you still look as great as you do.